and we do really apologize for being so late to start tonight. We have had some technical issue with the software. Thank goodness we resolved it now, and so we are ready to start. I'm Saad in Southeast London, in UK, and with me is my colleague Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing? How is the weather where you are?
One is fine, and it's been sunny and hot.
Okay, same here in London. It's sunny with some clouds and also hot. So welcome listeners to this spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushing. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is multiculturalism good for a society? Is multiculturalism good for society or a society? You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. And there's another way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, and that is blessradio1. That's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Uprushing, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Uprushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for discussion tonight is multiculturalism good for a society? Is multiculturalism good for a society? Gregory, I just want to let you know how to contact us. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And then there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. There, if you go down on the homepage, you will see a chat box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Gregory, as you know, I like to always look up the meaning of the words in the topic. So again, to remind everyone, the topic tonight is multiculturalism good for a society? So the first keyword there is multiculturalism. And before I actually start that, I just want to give a bit of background why we have come up with the topic tonight. Those of us in the UK, or maybe even people abroad, know there was a terrible murder, stabbing of 3 children that were killed, and altogether 8 children were stabbed, and 2 adults also. This is in a town called Southport, which is near Liverpool. And it was a killing by a 17-year-old boy. And there was a lot, of course, it was a shock for the people, the whole you can say the whole country as well, really. And but there's been a lot of, when I say protest or violence sparked since that happened. And the reasoning, well, we are trying to explore that actually. What is the reason for it? But the person who was arrested for this murder and stabbing is a 17-year-old boy who is a son of Rwandan refugees who had settled in UK. And this boy has been charged with murder and attempted murder. But unfortunately, this has led to a lot of events from there. So initially, there was a peaceful vigil held in the town of Southport where the murder stabbing happened the next day with the local community. But however, at the same time, there was another gathering of largely white men and few women, white women from outside of Southport who seemed to have got provoked and prompted to march to a mosque in Southport and started to attack it. And even the police officers were guarding it. So they became quite violent, throwing bricks and so on. And this seemed to be sparked by their belief that the murderer was from, let's say, Muslim Syrian refugee, because of some reports on the social media. So this sort of false rumor, it was a false rumor, the police even denied it, but they still came, the protesters, so-called protesters came to voice their, whatever you can say, attacks they wanted to make. And they attacked the police. who got a lot of injuries from that. And this has unfortunately also spread to the rest of the cities and towns in England and even in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And it's still continuing, actually. Doesn't have seem to have stopped yet. So this is I could say, the reasoning for picking this topic of multiculturalism. Is it good for society? Although there's more issues than that is, behind this, what's the events that are happening, violent events that are happening right now. So we'll explore as much as we can. There's so many questions to talk about, to think about. So now, Gregory, as you know, we like to look in the meaning of the words of the topic. So just to repeat again, is in the dictionary, and it says multiculturalism is the view that cultures, races, and ethnicities, particularly those of minority groups, deserve special acknowledgement for their differences within a dominant political culture. So, Gregory, with all that I have said, is this definition good for our discussion?
Actually, the definition is not good at all, because it says multicultural, and it doesn't talk about what the culture is. So it assumes. It's more of a political stunt. It has nothing to do, doesn't know what multicultural, or it doesn't address it at all.
Actually, thank you for saying that. I'm now going to just quickly look up what is culture, so we can just have a this is again quickly I'm checking in the dictionary here. So culture in the dictionary, it's giving us two definitions: the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. That is one of the meaning. Let me repeat: the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. What do you say about this one, Gregory, for culture?
It is still not appropriate, because that which is referred to as culture has to do with the inner core of man, a manifestation of the spirit, not of the intellect.
Right. And is art of the intellect, or is it the spirit? Because it's arts as well. Oh, Gregory, can you hear me?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so art, is that also part of culture or not? Is it intellectual or is it spiritual?
That which is referred to as culture is a manifestation of the spirit's activities as it has perceived it in creation. So the intellect has no place other than it's a tool which is used, but it's more of the spirit.
Right. So I want to give you the second meaning in the dictionary for culture: the ideas, customs, and social behavior of a particular people or society. Is that a better definition there?
Again, you find all the dictionary is talking about is quite superficial. It hasn't gone to the core. So some of these definitions are very narrow. They don't explain, they don't touch about the key thing. Although they may be used, but it leads to all form of arguments, because they haven't touched on the core of what culture is.
And if I remember correctly, you were saying the culture is expression of the spirit. Am I right?
I said it's a manifestation.
Manifestation.
A manifestation of the activities of the spirit as it has discovered these in creation. So you have the spirit, the perceived activities in creation, and in order to resonate with it is the manifestation that one is talking about.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for that. I think although we are repeating ourselves a little bit, it's good to say that, because when things are not clear, and it takes time to sort of establish the clarity. So thank you for that. Now, the next word in the topic is good. Is multiculturalism good for society? So the word good, it says, the meaning in dictionary, to be desired or approved of. That's one meaning. Is that how good? How good is that? How good is that definition there, Gregory?
Well, quite interesting. You say, how good is that definition about good?
Yeah.
Well, one can see that these definitions are very shallow. They refer to themselves. There is no context. That means there's no framework. That which is good must be good in accordance with the laws of creation, through which all that exists came into existence. That is the basis.
Thank you for that. And the second definition, I think you already, I'll just say it from the dictionary. It says having the required qualities or of a high standard. So this is again the meaning of good. So again, Gregory, I would say that's not really quite, it's falling short of the definition you're giving. So always we need to consider the laws, the context, which is the laws of creation. So it has to be good within the laws of creation, not just saying high standard and high quality. So it's not, it needs to be in that context. So thank you. I won't ask you to comment more on it right now. I want to continue further so that we can go into the main part of the discussion. So Greg, I'll move on to the next word there. The main word is, or keyword, society. So in the dictionary, they've got two meanings given for society. The first one, the aggregate of people living together in a more or less ordered community. What do you say about this meaning, Gregory?
Sorry, that is appropriate.
Okay, good. That's good. Something useful. All right. And then the second meaning from the dictionary for society, it's organized. Oh, this is, I don't think, relevant for us. It says an organization or club formed for a particular purpose or activity. For example, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. But I don't think this is so relevant for us.
No, we may just ignore that and
yes,
get on with.
We just move forward. Okay, let's really get into the meat of the discussion now. So just to repeat, the topic is multiculturalism good for a society? Now, Gregory, I know I was giving the background to our topic. So although we are not ready for that just yet, I want to go into, again, like the basic general context here. So should each country only keep its indigenous or dominant culture rule and demand any different or other minority culture to totally integrate or align with the dominant culture in a society? I've got another question following up on that, but let me repeat this one. And demand that any different or other minority culture to totally integrate or align with the dominant culture in a society.
Example. These cultures are such that within the earth, there are different peoples that have existed on earth, and part of the way they do things is the way they grow their food and the type of food which they have, which they consume. Now consider that Iceland does not cultivate bananas. Germany or UK does not cultivate coffee. So the question is, does it then mean that a country that does not cultivate something cannot make use of what others have cultivated? Means you can imagine in Europe, no bananas. In Europe, no coffee. In Europe, no tea. Ask yourself where that leads. Again and again, you find that the one for all and all for one, which is utilized to complement others, is ignored because this has been wrongly applied. So when people talk of multiculturalism, whatever they care to call it, and they say, okay, we have been in this island or in that island, you just smile. Because strictly speaking, they, all their parents, came from somewhere. So you now go to the US and say, everybody go back so that the Red Indians will take over. All right? And the potatoes which were cultivated there only for the Red Indians, so-called. All these things are due to misunderstanding of what culture is. That which is of culture, which is to help polish the spirit, such that the individual can experience from different areas, that has not been addressed. Just ask yourself the basic question. When there is so-called gun culture, did they ever ask who shot the gun? And because the gun was shot, and that person came from Northern Ireland or came from Scotland or from England or from Wales, and therefore you should go back? These are just knee-jerk reactions, which strictly speaking have no basis.
Thanks very much for this answer and picture that you have painted there, Gregory. From what you are saying, it looks like, the spirit is free to move around, human being we're talking, and there shouldn't be any sort of restriction. Only this land is for this people, and that land is for another people, and they cannot cross the boundary, whatever the boundary happens to be. And then if there's food or whatever people are bringing, it shouldn't cross this boundary, just for some, I don't know, artificial reason that people say this is my land and the other one is the other people's land. So they shouldn't be sort of mixing or crossing these lands. And even though we know, Gregory, they do trade, people do trade, even if they don't, let's say, stay in quotes, their own land, people do still trade, isn't it? They, by some people, like you said, some people have potato, the other people have banana. So they want to have the banana and the other ones want the potato. Then they must trade to do that. So even if they don't cross into each other's land as such, I mean, that's literally impossible, but, they obviously have to if they want to pick it up. So, so is that what you're saying, Gregory, that the spirit should be free to move around? And, I don't know if I should use the word pick and choose. It's free to move around, which means it can eat from here, can take from there. It's not really a boundary.
The human spirit has the freedom to experience. has the freedom to experience in giving and taking, like breathing in and breathing out. Only when this is possible to say, oh, this is my piece of land, don't come in here. That is your piece of land, don't go in there. The wind which blows all over the world, that wind system, must it be stopped and say, okay, that wind, when it gets to the boundary of Europe, it should stop, shouldn't get into another country? There are enough examples from man to learn from. The abilities which many have, and these abilities which have accrued from the activities of the Spirit, these abilities complement those of others, be it in the way they care to express themselves in their dressing, even in the language which they speak. It is supposed to support the other. Otherwise, there would have been problem all this while. However, because they themselves don't know how to go about it, then you have these problems. What precipitated the problem in these so-called protests that you have is that of a 17-year-old. Has it ever been considered that that 17-year-old may have mental problems? Have there not been many people who had mental problems and have done terrible things? What was the response to this, wherever they came from? These are the things people should reflect on instead of knee-jerk reaction and make all sorts of things. And again, is their limited, pathetic understanding of what culture is. That's what makes them react in such a violent fashion. True, very true, that the activity of that 17-year-old is not commendable and is painful. But one must ask, what lies behind it? If it turns out to be a mental case, then it should be addressed as a mental case, rather than, pointing fingers at everybody. Such has never been helpful.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for what you've answered there. I've got a lot more to ask you actually about these points. But before I do that, I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. Usually we start at 6 p.m. and finish at 8 p.m. But I think we might be running a bit late. We started late today, so we apologize for that, and probably will finish a little bit late. And the aim of this show, the spiritual discussion program, is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushin. And if you want to get more information on the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is multiculturalism good for a society? Is multiculturalism good for a society? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, the number 1.com. And if you scroll down the home page there, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box. Bless Radio 1. Again, there's the number 1 there. Space live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And there's another place you can listen to us, which is, before I say that, you can listen to the recording of this show again on YouTube, but that will be the next day. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space, Grail, message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is multiculturalism good for a society? And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, in your previous answer, you're talking about, expressing our culture, you could say, which is the manifestation of the spirit, but in harmony. Now, people, I will say, most of the people don't seem to understand culture, as you have said already. And then I'm going to pick, let's say, one issue, but there are hundreds of issues with this misunderstanding of people's culture, getting in each other's way. So let's say one particular group, when they culture, when they cook their food smells, let's say strong smell, and then they happen to be living with another culture around them, which has a different type of cooking, and they do not have so much smell like this, and they're not used to this smell, the other one. So some people complain. I know this seems very trivial, but it's just a typical example of the, in quotes, the misunderstanding and intolerance, which is not so small, because it leads to many other big troubles, as we've been talking about. So, Gregory, when these, in quotes, differences, lack of understanding or appreciation, I picked only this one because, let's say, some people have brought this up in the radio shows. I've been listening to other people's discussions going on. As they say, it sounds trivial, but this is one of these things, in quotes, which are differences, which people don't seem to be able to get on, So the question, the fundamental question, Gregory, we were saying, is this multicultural? We are saying these are multicultures, different cultures, living in the same place, same society. One is a dominant one, in quotes, because of the race. One of the race is dominant in their way, and then the others are, in quotes, minorities who have decided to move there, over time, and even the next generation is living there now, or even further generations are living. So these other cultures having differences with the one that was there already. So my question on this, Gregory, is how can these differences between these cultures live in harmony, basically? How can we start to appreciate that and accept this, to live in harmony?
Most of the time is the lack of understanding of the strength and or weaknesses of others. This lack of understanding sometimes is expressed as hatred. The example you gave, which for some people is here in Europe, but we should be very careful because that lack of understanding of the strength and weaknesses of others, that lack of understanding is found almost in any society where some consider themselves to be dominant because they are more, and they force their lack of understanding, their lack of respect on others, whether it be it in Europe or in Asia or in Africa. It is exactly the same thing. This has nothing to do with culture. It has everything to do with man's personal weaknesses. For had they made an extra effort, those who exhibit this behavior of considering others to be inferior to them, had they made any bit of effort to understand the challenges of others, then that attitude will not come up. So many who participate or exhibit this type of behavior only exhibit their lack of understanding and their weaknesses, which have now turned out to be false. So it has nothing to do whether it's in Europe and in America, or it is the man himself, the individual, the collection in a society where one thinks they are better than the other because they are dominant. For truly, if one is truly better than the other, that means better in accordance to the laws of creation, that must be exhibited in their character. For such exhibition, that which is better will do the best for others, such that others will also become better. That is how it is. That person who is better, who has cultivated his virtues, must understand or must have understood what the challenges are. And in that case, should strive to support the other one to ensure that he or she will come to the understanding on how to proceed. That is how creation has been arranged. For he or she who receives of the blessings must first make use of it and pass it on to others. Pass it on to others through his or her understanding. That is not the case already tells you what many consider as culture are just basic weaknesses. For when you examine this in different parts of the world, you will find that is the repetition of weaknesses where you have 2 or 3 people, forget about the color, nothing to do with color. Because those people who consider themselves wealthy, considering the amount of money they have, they do not discriminate themselves. They don't. It is others they discriminate against. They form a cabal. So everyone must strive to understand what this is. Personal weaknesses. For if you have in the case where one is not as matured or not as developed as the other, the one who is more matured, more developed, must help the one who is less developed to attain to something better. In that case, just as he or she assists those who are less well off development, so will the blessings that stream to creation assist them also in one way or the other. If, however, that is not the case, then resentment will be built up and things will run into a quagmire. So it will be very wrong to quickly point fingers at others when the faults which we find there is very well hammered in us through the way we care to conduct our speeches, through the way we care to relate to others. Therefore, it is possible to live with people of different backgrounds. But first, we must strive to understand the challenges that we all have. Therein lies the key to living in peace. You are on mute, Farouki.
Apologies. Thanks, Gregory, for your answer. What I'm getting from what you're saying about the differences, people are looking, you can say, too superficially at them, rather than what is underneath them, what is behind them, and making their own judgments, and of course causing the disharmony from that, rather than really appreciating, okay, this person is from there, that's how they are, I'm from here, I'm this way. It doesn't, at the end of the day, each one is a human being. Yes, they might have a different skin color or culture or whatever is the outer expression of what we are. But the bottom line, we all know we have these 2 arms, 2 eyes, 2 legs, and whatever, heart and so on, and blood, which is the same for each person, whatever race, culture, what we are. And somehow that is being forgotten, and the differences are being highlighted. And also, you can also look at what have they got, each people have to give or provide. Maybe I can learn something from them, and vice versa. And that's how you can get harmony. Because when we started with the food, originally, Gregory, you said banana, let's say it comes from Africa, or let's say southern places, wherever banana grows, let's call it. And then, forgotten the other fruit you mentioned, but let's just make something up for a second now.
Coffee is there, tea is there.
Yes, so coffee. So they're all coming from different places, and everybody wants to have it, banana or coffee. But if it's not growing in your place, it doesn't mean you can't have it. So, and you're not going to complain that, why I can't have it. So if you can accept the food from different places, then why can't you accept the people as well? So there's more to Gregory. I want to come, and there's a listener also making a point also. I'm just trying to, let's say, develop this our discussion so that we can go step by step, what the real issues are. I mean, there's a mention, you have already mentioned, there's poverty or richness that people have, which are differences. People, they don't talk about race in that one, or culture there. It's in every place. You have rich and you have poor. So these are general things, but somehow this race issue or culture issue seem to have become a big deal, causing a lot of trouble. So there is some issue that we need to keep exploring to see what we really are. Now, I'm thinking, Gregory, each people or race are born in their location or area, and obviously they have the characteristics coming from there. You can understand, which we can understand that, just like the food, we've mentioned that already. We have, in quotes, black race, Asian race, races, let's call it, because there are quite a number of them, European or white, and others, Chinese, and so on. So yes, originally, in quotes, they were born in that particular area, but in this world of today, or not only now, many centuries and thousands of years, people have been moving around. So, Gregory, what I want to say, it seems now there's a mass movement going on, and people seem to be upset that, especially these, with these protesters, so-called protesters, are complaining that too many of them have come into this, in quotes, UK. Now, even they're using the word illegal, but in quotes, the refugees, which are not really illegal when you think I'm putting this clearly because people are using these words, labeling this person and that person with this and that. But when you look deeply, these labels are even completely incorrect. The simple word illegal, if you are a refugee, you come into this country, it can't be called illegal if you pass if you get the refugee status given to you. And 70 to 80% get the status given to them, whatever the method they have managed to get into this country. So that they're not called illegal once they have been given that status. And so a refugee almost cannot come into this country unless they're illegal, because some of those countries, they won't get away from those countries. They can't get a visa to travel here. They can only come by this, in quotes, illegal routes. And then they apply, and that's how they get their visa. So many people have a lot of misunderstanding. Gregory, we talk about misinformation, but most of the people are so ignorant when they come to their views, just like we are finding about culture. So much ignorance, which is, and they're being influenced by these, you could say, people with their own agendas in social media and whatever way that news is getting put around. And then before you know it, they're starting causing riots. So they're being exploited, I will say, and misled without them really even knowing what they're doing. And it's really quite a terrible sort of madness going on. But let me go back, Gregory, to what I want to say about, yes. So let's say people have these grievances, these so-called white people in this in UK. They're saying there's too much mass illegal migration happening. These people are claiming benefit. They're allowed to stay in accommodation, all paid by government, which is from our money of the UK people. And they think that, and even that, Gregory, is a misinformation, because that benefit is not as much as they think. But somehow there's a grievance. That's the point I want to make. They may be approaching in their wrong way to attack with the violence, and but even this, they don't have the right understanding who is a refugee or what, how you can get into this country. So there's a lot of misinformation going on. So there's 2 points. I just want to pick one of them. Let's pick first one, Gregory. Okay, let's look at that one. Is there too much, in quotes, migration or refugees to be handled with, let's say, in UK, just to use that as an example? It's all happening in Europe as well. They're even getting more than what the UK is getting. So is there too much going on, and the people are getting frustrated here.
The question each man or each personality must ask themselves, why migration? And when one understands the motive behind migration, then maybe there will be change of views, whether it's too much or too little. In some countries, the challenge is now becoming that because they have stopped migration as such, or they don't encourage it, quietly they are dying off. The sad thing about this so-called migration is that it has to do with money. Money and money alone. Because the examples which is shown is not about cultivating the virtues for uprightness. That is far from it. What has been happening, people want, in quotes, to go somewhere where they can have a good shot at building up for their old age, or they can enjoy things which are similar to what they have seen others, in quotes, enjoying. But the error has always remained. They left where they were as minorities, or whatever one may care to call them. They have come to a new environment. The question which each person must ask themselves, if the reverse were the case, would they show understanding? The difficulty here is expecting others to grant you what they don't yet have. The places you are visiting, if they do not have the maturity of spirit, why do you then expect them to show you the maturity of spirit, which you yourself, wherever you were, had people come from the outside, you will find there will be protest about it. So you have this lack of understanding. It is the lack of understanding of those who have left wherever they were to a new place, and the lack of understanding of those who are where they currently are, where in quotes they are having fun, enjoying themselves. So you have on this side a lack of understanding, on the other side a lack of understanding. And therefore, this blind hate emerges as a product of fear. Fear in the sense that here we are in quotes the original people of this land, and they're coming to share in our wealth. Those who have left where they were born and have come across There's also the lack of understanding of the concerns of the other people. That it is these concerns that make them react this way. But ask yourself, if each migrant brings in monetary terms, 10 million pounds in gold, diamond, and whatever, each migrant, ask yourself, will people protest that they should go back? If each migrant has so much skills as to become, or is a doctor, to help in the healing of others, if each migrant has skills to help in engineering, if each migrant has skills to conduct music, if each migrant has skills to clean the environment in such a way that everybody enjoys, will they ask them not to come? Therein lies your answer. So, what lies behind it is fear. Fear that those who are coming to share of us and they have nothing. Again, this is the fundamental problem which human personalities still carry. Those who have, in quotes, the resources, it does not necessarily mean they are more mature than those who are coming. Far from it. It is the same lack of understanding, same ignorance that causes all these things. Those who have left their old place to the new place, they themselves must try to understand and be of such behavior such that it brings benefit not only to themselves but also to others. So one should not be too quick to condemn, but must withdraw a bit, reflect, and understand where the thoughts are leading. Whether in whatever country, you find all these things. So, but in each country, it is the task of those who first are in government to ensure that the skills of others are brought into play such that the environment will be improved, not by force, but through the knowledge, through the right knowledge. So unless these things are considered that way, then through lack of understanding, fear of the other person will arise, because it will be, oh, they are coming to take from us, and from the other side, oh, they don't want us because we have nothing. If, however, those who are coming, they have so much, they are all doctors, engineers, there will be no problem. Why? Go to Germany. It has happened. 1 million people. So all of those involved must show patience and perseverance.
Thanks again, Gregory, for this answer. And I'm going to say the way we should look at this situation in a bigger picture, rather than our own, in quote, selfish views. Oh, it's our country, bring our country back. You know, if I were to say, oh, but these people are coming from the country that you were colonizing only a few 100 years ago, so what are you complaining about? You took the countries are even bigger than England, and they took over those people, and now a few thousands of them are coming, and then suddenly we are complaining. So it's all getting very, very ridiculous and silly. That they don't even look at as we say, the laws of creation. There's a reciprocal action. You did something maybe 100 years ago, it's coming back now. You know, they weren't powerful then to run into the country then, but they can come now. So, you know, so there has to be payback wherever situation you happen to be, and they're also having their own payback. So the laws are working on every person in all situations. So there's no injustice anywhere. In fact, there's never injustice if you really want to know what is the true laws of creation. So all the complaint is only you are the one causing the trouble, not someone else. Always quick to point finger on other people when the cause is only one person. And what is happening to you is only because of you, not because of someone else. And so this mass, individual, all this pointing the finger on other people, it will never get you right answers because you're not thinking or seeing the proper picture. In fact, with Gregory, with that, we will always complain. So if you want to continue to complain, then you can always look like this way. But if you want the answer, you can see the bigger picture. So thank you for that, Gregory. I will now just remind the listeners, this is Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message, by Upcrushing. If you wish to get a copy of the Grail message or want to get more information on the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is apologies for that sound, www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is multiculturalism good for a society? Is multiculturalism good for a society? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments in there. And as I mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for our live show, which is broadcasting on Tuesdays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. Tonight we will be going a little bit longer because we started a bit late. So also you can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space Grail message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is multiculturalism good for a society? Is multiculturalism good for a society? And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM / Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, there's so many aspects of what this violence and troubles that we're having in UK, and it's not exclusive. I mean, this one is particularly in UK. Another thing, things are happening too. But one of the things, Gregory, is this misinformation, which is being, how can I say, moving around very quickly and explosively. And despite corrections or other sources of information sort of conflicting with what this, let's say, false narrative. I don't want to use always these terms that people use, like common words, because they can all be sounding like how can I say, specific languages, which I want to use just let's say the normal words rather than, because they have always connotations. All these words have connotations, which can have a political angle or some agenda under it. And I want to be neutral and clear in our language and expressions. So again, the point is, Gregory, there is misinformation going on around, despite the correct information is also there. Even though when the correct information is put out, it seems it doesn't, and especially with what we are seeing now, it doesn't seem to have any effect. It's like somebody fired a bomb, lit the match for the bomb, and now until the match reaches up to where the bomb is, it will keep going, and it can't be stopped. So I know I'm using my own analogy there, but something like that is going on. It seems the bomb has been started, and it doesn't seem to be able to stop this bomb. Despite, in quotes, we are human beings and we have ears and eyes and brain, and we can see what is there, and we're still acting like a herd mentality, following somebody else's, let's say, story. So I'm wondering, Gregory, what's going on there? Have we human beings become mad here, or indoctrinated so much, or we have our own thinking which aligns with this, in quotes, fake or false stories? There's so much I can see is weaving in. Each person will have their own sort of angle on it, but there's a big, how can I say, mass movement of it happening right now. So explosion, I can call it. How could that be going on, Gregory? Is there something? How can that happen, that we are like there's a mass movement of such false news, which is having a lot of effect, and it can't seem to be stopped?
Very simply, unless every activity is examined, is weighed, not only in deeds, but also in thoughts, and also with our intuitions, unless the individual uses these capabilities, these inner capabilities and outer capabilities, to weigh and examine in accordance with these laws through which he or she came into existence, the likelihood is that all sort of rubbish thrown out there will be accepted. Therefore, the source All the problem is indolence. Indolence in our thoughts for not examining or weighing. Indolence in our intuition. In fact, the intuition is not even used anymore. A picture without word flashes, it is ignored. We want to justify all sorts of things without careful reflection. That is always the problem. So it's a problem of indolence, not only indolence of the intellect, but also indolence of the spirit. And that is why all sorts of rubbish are woven and thrown out there. It is easy to accept what has been thrown out there because you don't have to exert yourself to investigate with one's thoughts, to investigate the deeds, to investigate using one's intuition requires efforts, continuous efforts. And that is what many are no longer capable of. It's easier to roll down into the depths than to climb up to the mountain. So, whatever is out there, which somebody can easily manufacture and throw out there, you accept. That is why there's no other, or if there's any other, maybe it may be examined. So one can now find what indolence has caused. Because nobody wants to, as such, investigate to find, is this a fact? Should many exert themselves to start from the facts, definitely they will come to a different conclusion. Definitely they will start understanding why others have challenges. That is always the case.
Thanks a lot for that answer, Gregory. There's another aspect. Let's say don't say we are focusing, but the people in quotes causing the trouble are let's say the people on the ground. However, the driving force of it are you can call it organizers hiding behind the social media, or even the publishers like Twitter or TikTok or whatever the one is the people are using. They seem to be, how can I say, they're just a platform, we know that. However, it is that platform that is being used for the spread of these troubles. And these platform owners, they keep their hands free from anything. They said, oh, we are just, in quotes, the other people are the source of this information. We just provide the platform for them to use. So isn't there some responsibility? The first responsibility, you could say, the people who put the misinformation onto the platform. But then let's say if they were doing that on a radio, there's a regulation for that, or TV. There's some regulation governing the TV and radio. So they can't just broadcast whatever anybody wants to say. They have regulated. But these other platforms is whatever each person wants to say, they can say freely. So what I'm asking Gregory, where is the responsibility, or does it extend beyond in quotes, the individuals or people who are publishing, writing misinformation? What about the platforms that are there? So so far we've been looking at the people who, in quotes, who are taking the physical actions and causing the troubles physically, violence, but there's others also involved. How much is the responsibility for these other people or platforms and so on?
Each individual, by omission or by commission, is responsible for what they have helped to propagate or cultivate. But look at it very carefully. Before anything can be published in a radio setting, in a television setting, it has to be vetted, because there are those who have that responsibility. Now, fair is fair. You have two people who are chatting, say in social media, and in their chats, A says B is stupid, B says C is stupid. Who is to vet that indeed B is not stupid or C is not stupid? That means those who provided the platform will have to go into the thoughts of every personality that are registered on that platform. Is that possible? Of course, when it reaches a critical mass, it may be looked into. But before it gets there, these are little things, gossips. How is a regulator able to know in the chitty-chatty of two friends or different groups whether their discussion is fake or not fake? So these people should put themselves into this and ask them. There are many who express their thoughts every day in social media, whether you call it WhatsApp or you call it Facebook or you call it Twitter or whatever. They express themselves and they gossip about others. And many people like gossips. Then ask yourself, you might write all sort of algorithm, and that to a large extent may help. But the key fact remains, how can the individual be prevented from making statements about another person? And when a statement like that is made, you now have the provider of the platform to investigate whether what was said about the other person is true or not. That person who only just signed up today into that platform. Again, indolence. And people that have bad habits, predilection to that which is evil, they are the ones who first trigger this, get involved with gossips, and expect some other person to come into their thoughts. People must censure themselves. That which you yourself will not want to be inflicted on you, in all naturalness, don't do it to others. So the practicalities must be considered, rather than being too hasty to accuse this person and say this person and this person. And the platform is there. It is, in quotes, free. If you disapprove of the platform, get out. By the time everybody pulls out, the platform will close down. But many are very happy to express themselves or to express their ignorance and stupidity. And with such, you have a mass of lazy, stupid people coming together, sharing their thoughts, precipitating so much discomfort, precipitating so much commotion. That is what happens. So it will not be right to say, oh, the owner of this platform, you should do this, you should do this. One must look at the practicalities. In radio, in television, these things are not free. And there are people who do all sort of editing. When you converse with another person and share your thoughts, would you be happy if somebody comes and starts doing the editing of your thoughts? So these are, each personality must weigh, must examine. Not only examine and weigh in deeds, in their thoughts, in their intuitions. This weighing and the examining must be done in accordance with the laws of creation. Let each person try that. And before long, one must find out what the result is. Because everyone becomes austere. That is the beginning of a good upbuilding.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. I'm going to slightly change tack to another angle. So, Gregory, we know, let's say in UK, we have many different races living in one place, and then we get, you could say, mixing with some races, coming together, through love and so on, and then that produces a mixed generation coming forward. Well, it's not in a big number. Let's say, I don't know exactly what is the percentage of two different cultures or races mixing, but it happens obviously when people are living in the same place. So when this happens, Gregory, obviously the two cultures have to have some similarity, or the two people have to, or it's going to be a new family, I should say. They would have to adopt and share from each culture there. So is that a good sort of development, Gregory, in terms of, because you will see there was a more, I use the word tolerance, but I don't like that word tolerance. It's where you appreciate and accept each other, as each one is, First, let's say the couple together, and then the children come from that. And so they automatically will be, how can I say, brought up, to accept each other, so they will be easier for them. So it sounds, I'm looking at that, Gregory. I know it's not, most people do that, but a certain number of people do that. So is that a good way, you could say, for the future, for humanity to progress, that they can accept each other, to appreciate each other, let me say like this, with the differences between the cultures?
May I request you, because I couldn't, it was very long.
Oh, you couldn't?
I couldn't really follow.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. So what I'm saying, Gregory, let's say in UK, we have different races or cultures living together. And many times you'll find that people become couples, I'll just say one example just to, but I didn't want to make an exact example. So let's say a white person marries a black, white man marries a white woman, black woman. And I'm not picking anything specific example, just a different culture. That's what I'm trying to point out. And they come together and then they have their own children. And so what I'm trying to say, Gregory, in this situation, the two people appreciate each other, as cultures and accept each other. And similarly, the children that are born from that, they're grown in that, in quotes, mixed environment of cultures. So is this, how can I say, a good example for people to appreciate each other, let me say like this. I'm not saying I'm not advocating that everybody should practice this, but can we see that as to appreciate the cultures of, I know I'm not coming up with the right question here. Yeah, is it a good example? That's what I want to say. When two people of different cultures are mixing, and you could say, for the progress.
One must differentiate very carefully. In the case of races, two different races, that is a fact. As for cultures, the practices of a people which have been adopted, which may not have sprung from the spirit, it's not a culture, it's just a practice. So, to say two cultures, and that is very far from it. For that which comes from the spirit must carry within it some things which are of virtue, which are of benefit to the spirit, which are of benefit to mankind. And that which are of benefit, which indeed are cultural, not practices which people have now mixed up and called cultures. That can be shared amongst the people. One cannot deny that, but one should not call it a culture. In fact, it is a misnomer. For with the so-called social media, a lot of things have been turned upside down. Practices are now called cultures. Were that to be the case, then in places in the past where people may have twin children, and in the practices, it is not allowed. The children have to be killed. In places, some places where some of these things exist, where some people are untouchable, though they are from within the same area, but untouchable. You hear that? Untouchable. They are unclean. You ask yourself, that's a group of people that have been permitted by the Almighty to exist and mature, are called untouchable. You shouldn't interact with them. Then you ask yourself, they are supposed to be of the same race. Then how do you explain that other than fear? In the time of Moses, you had the case where the Pharaoh differentiated between his own people, who are of the Egyptian, and that of the people of Israel. Why was that the case? He enjoyed the labor that those people who have been marginalized, the labor and the produce and everything they had, they enjoyed it. Why didn't they reject it? So you find everything has been turned upside down, inside out. That which they call culture now is just a practice which has been adopted to fit the people. So you ask yourself, when two people, in quotes, whether it is so-called racial intermarriages or not, ask yourself, what lies behind it? What is the motive? Is it to ennoble the other personality, to support the other personality to grow up? If that is the case, then according to the laws of creation, such a personality or such a move is blessed, because through their working together, in spite of the challenges, they bring blessing not only to themselves but to others. So when it is said this is interracial or not interracial, all right, cultural or not cultural, each personality must pick up the effort to ask, what lies behind it? Is it what people see physically? Or what do you find that everything has been highly calculated? Ask yourself, why is it that if really, even within the same culture, people wish to marry within the same culture and they wish to bring benefit, why would they not go and search for those who are in need of help and work with them to help them to grow? No. Those who have so much money will marry those who have so much money. And you find all sorts of discriminations everywhere. And those who cry so much about discriminations are themselves discriminating against all others. The results basically has its roots in fear. For what is a race? What is culture? Of course, when you talk of races, there are those of lighter skin who live sometimes in very cold countries. And there are those of dark skin who live in so-called hot countries. And therefore, if they wish to get together, then the question must be asked, what lies behind it? So does it mean the respect has now come? Or is just being fanciful? The human spirit must not lie to itself. What they call culture is not culture. It's self-deception. Or that word culture is only in their imagination. It does not touch their spirit. So it's all hypocrisy everywhere. When really that which is of culture comes in genuinely, then they are able to differentiate from what to do or what not to do. Then the expression one for all and all for one in all naturalness. Then each individual will find that he or she is part of a society, and there should be no idle hands. Each must contribute to the well-being of the whole, just as the whole must also contribute to the well-being of the individual, whether within a race or interracial. The challenge has always been the basic questions are not asked. And therefore, because they haven't asked the basic question or the right question, they cannot have a framework for an answer which will enable them to use to move forward. So most of these things of races or cultures, you love this person or you don't love this person, you need to ask what really is love. Many will say all sort of things, an attraction. What causes an attraction? These things are not considered. Anything which comes to the ennoblement of the individual is not considered unless that individual has so much funds to throw around or has so much strength and can beat up the other person. So for now, everything is inside out, upside down.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this long answer in this, giving the detailed picture of what really, how we are as human beings, really, in our, you could say, misunderstanding and confusion about the concept of race and culture and, what is behind it. As you keep saying, what is behind it? We just don't look at that. And all we are looking for, what advantage, material advantage, although we won't call it material, but that's what we're trying to say. What I can get from this, in quotes, relationship.
Well, thank you very much for adding that. I forgot to add that. Material advantage over the other one. So yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, so, it's just, it's really sad, honestly, to, because what you have said, when you think about it, you say, oh, we are so lost and messed up that where can we even start? We talk about culture and race, but we don't have the right foundation to even think of what's behind it. It's two human beings or your village or whatever community that you're living in. What are you thinking of them? Is it really a community or is it something of, in quotes, self-advantage that we are trying to get? Economic, whatever the version of advantage we are thinking. But the real one, as you keep saying every time we talk in every show, all for one and one for all. So it's not about this person or that person having advantage. Everybody has to win. And this is just not the foundation that people think about or how they base on their, you could say, decisions and actions. So it's like a fundamental issue that we are failing on. Now I'm wondering, so this culture, which we said is a manifestation of the activity of the spirit, which can happen, it happens in creation. So it's not just the earth, but the whole, you could say, world where we human beings exist, which is not only on the earth, but in the, you could say, the beyond. So this is the activity of the spirit. And but our focus has been in this show about the earthly, you could say. So, I'm wondering, Gregory, where can we get, you could say, the right guidance or direction to develop our culture from the spirit? Do we need to connect, you say, with nature, with some higher other beings? I know we haven't discussed about that today, but we just think of ourselves, we are the people on this earth, there's other fellow human beings here, but then we know if we say creation, it is not only us on this creation, there is the nature beings, the natures, other creatures. We keep saying all for one and one for all. And I'm wondering, is it just only human beings coming together, or are we meant to connect with other beings in terms of forming the culture, So Gregory, how do we work, you could say, develop this culture? Is it our individual sort of ideas? Or is there supposed to be some guidance from above, you can say, or observing nature? Yes. How do we sort of, how do we develop this culture?
That's a very good question. And very simply, whenever a culture is mentioned, One of the things that comes to one's fore is music. The music from different parts of the earth are very different. And yet, this music, this art form, have arisen from deep within the individual. Many, for example, when they listen to the Scottish bagpipes, are so very moved, such that that bagpipe may be played in any part of the earth, and yet people are still very moved. They wouldn't say, oh, because it's Scottish, therefore I won't listen to it. Same thing with others. They hear a piece of music, they listen to it intensively, and they are moved deep within themselves. Moved deep within themselves already tells you it goes past the frontal brain, goes to the back brain, to the solar plexus, and to the core of man, reminding him or her of some tones, which tones resonate, and many shared it here. A piece of music you've not heard before, you are listening to it, and it seizes you to the core. Where did it come from? Most of these things are mediated simply by those who are open to it. For the person who finally expresses it must have perceived of this piece of music without going to school. You ask yourself, where are the musicians that have gone to school to study music to get their first degree, second degree, PhD, professors of music? It's completely out of those hands. But due to inner communication, many, through practice, are able to perceive and mediate it as best as they can. So in such a way as music, a form of art, has moved man, irrespective of his race or her race, irrespective of so-called culture, that art form remains at the forefront. That is what touches the individual, the arts. How does it come? Let many reflect first on the expression of an art. For the individual must have perceived of an impression. And in that case, to mediate that impression externally to others, there is this expression of music. That's how it is. And that is the example that one may give. Just as the piece of music will move many a soul, so also in our activities, we should express ourselves. The piece of music moved many a soul to tears. This piece of music did not pierce your skin to cause you pain. but was able to touch the inner core, and from there, tears of joy or tears of sorrow, for one lacks certain things. There is much to be learned. And watch, no matter the strata of society, rich or poor, music, whether the person is rich or not rich in money, that personality is still able to appreciate and even smile or weep, because that is one area which that individual is able to connect to. That may be expressed in their language, the way they care to construct their language, the way they care to respond to others. There is much that the individual can do. Now, with the advent of this work, which work has to do with light and truth, one may only adjourn or encourage others to examine deep within them, such that they are able to express themselves in accordance with the laws that gave them this opportunity.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. I'm going to call it an end to our show tonight, and I apologize again for having a late start. With our technology failed us, but in the end we managed to get started. Dear listeners, I hope you've enjoyed the discussion on the topic of, is multiculturalism good for society? And as Gregory's been saying, we really have to use our spirit to make sense of all these concepts and life that we are living, rather than our, in quotes, habits and prejudicial views that we have inherited and adopted. We have to weigh and examine, as you said, Gregory, over and over. Otherwise, we are really lost in our ways. So I would like to now end by reading from the Grail message, the foreword, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring in religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake, genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Apprushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to get a copy of the Grail message or want to get more information on the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll just spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Wishing you a beautiful week. We'll be back as usual, hopefully on time for next week, Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Good night and God bless. Bye.